Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's your Rodfather 916. If you are a racist or a purist who wants to keep your community pure, we want to keep it black, or we want to keep it Asian, or we want to keep it Mexican, you're having a hard time right now. Because you turn on the TV, you go to the movies, and you see interracial relationships. Gotta be tough on both racists. And not one group is exclusive. Racism doesn't belong to one group exclusively. Believe me when I say that, because I'm black. I know a lot of black people who are racist. I know through the years, I know white people who are racist, and other groups, you can tell. I'm a baby boomer. I was brought up during integration, I will say 2.0. Less violence, didn't have to call the National Guards, there were no news reports, there was nobody at CBS outside my middle school. But there was resistance because there's ignorance. If you haven't been exposed to something different, it makes you uncomfortable. I remember going to one of my friends' houses, and for a whole week I was interviewed by everybody on my street. I heard you went to these white people's houses. How was it? Did anybody like make you eat outside? You know, did the father call you a nigger? No. I mean, it was almost like they were disappointed. They didn't. But if you only get your information from one place, maybe the TV or just the room through the rumor mill, or this has been your experience with somebody of different race, someone will take that and run with it and say, okay, well, if I've had this experience, they're all that way, which is not true. It isn't true in any race. That's a word we call stereotype. You know, it's one of the reasons today I prefer not to live in a mono neighborhood where everybody's the same color. I'm black, love being black. Do I want to live in a black neighborhood? No, absolutely not. Do I want to live in a white neighborhood? Absolutely not. And I didn't want my kids to be brought up in that ignorance. Not that they're bad people, but it's a challenge because when people are not exposed to different things. When you live in certain large communities and you discover, well, you know, those gay people are just like us. You know, they take their fork in and their knife and they cut meat like we do. I saw a Chinese family and they use knife and forks. I know that sounds absurd and hopefully not too insulting. I'm just trying to make a point here. But the good news with people getting to know each other in different races, those stereotypes are fading. There will always be people, extreme people, who believe or are uncomfortable or just don't want to do it. I don't want my daughters around black people. Because the people who left, the whites who left the cities, are now struggling in the suburbs. And there are people who are leaving those states, like Georgia, parts of California, parts of other places, to go in an area, say like Idaho or Wyoming, where it's mostly white. Unfortunately for them I was in Idaho last year. A lot of Hispanics are moving. There are black people there. It's going to happen. And I've traveled to different countries, and you see it in different countries. Some of the other, in Europe, they seem to be a little more mature about this. They're not hysterical. When you see gay people walking down the streets, people are not like, oh my God, this is San Francisco. It's not there. And the generations, the millennials, the generation Ys, they're like, I was brought up with people of color. Blacks are not odd. Mexicans are not odd. It's what we grew up with. And I think that's a great thing. I remember back, it was a huge thing in the black community. I'm sure it was huge in the white community when William Shatner kissed Uhura, I can pronounce it, on Star Trek. Huge! Jim Brown and Raquel Welch. Huge! Huge! And then you had race mixing on television, and the next thing you know, the world is going to pot. But understand, and I'm going to keep this real simple, ignorance is not a horrible thing. Ignorance is horrible when it affects other people, financially, physically, emotionally. But you don't know what you don't know. And if you've never been exposed to a different race or different culture, it's not horrible. It's what you do with that information and how you react or interact with that person. And over time, you will discover, after going out to the movies with them or just hanging out, you go, they're just like us. He cut his finger and his blood was red. I was amazed. But if you're a racist, it's rough right now. We're finally seeing us on television. Not enough Asians, but Asians are getting there. And that makes us feel normal. Because we lived in a world where everything was white. It wasn't right unless you're white. That's changing. My gosh, the Kardashians has made race dating or dating black men an industry. A white man? Ah! All for fun. You like what you like. I mean, for certain women of color, as they go up and become more professional, they'll find fewer black men or fewer Mexican men or fewer Asian men. So they may find themselves in a working environment where there's all white people. So now you're seeing black women with white men, Asian women with Hispanic men, because that's who you're working with, that's who you meet, that's who you socialize with. Many friendships start at work. And the only advice, because my wife was white, the only advice I can give to anybody is please be patient. Understand there's going to be a lot of ignorance. And understand it's not always about race. They're just not exposed to, say, someone who's Indian. Because how many of you, show of hands, I'm counting, how many people of you are married to somebody that your parents or some members of your family don't like, and they happen to be your color? Not race, they just don't like them. I'm still counting. Yeah, you down front. Okay, you one hand, you got two hands up. But in the meantime, this is just an observation. This is the Rod Father wishing everybody love, joy, peace, and happiness. It's a choice. It really and truly is. Thank you for watching. If you haven't seen me on YouTube, go up there and click YouTube. And if you like what you see, subscribe. Or if you like what I'm talking about, because there are other things I talk about that I don't talk about here, hit the like button. This old man would want it. It's very important that he gets it. This is a new chapter of his life, started by rocking chair. And I sure appreciate it. Meanwhile, jello for everybody. Thank you for watching. Mr. Rodfather 916. He's out. Get off me.